shit. And I imagined myself like just stay, boom, bringing that stick around. And then I got on stage in front of like 300 hardcore juggalos at 4:30 in the morning, and they absolutely loved me. At a certain point, I was like, will someone just throw a beer can so I can deduct this lacrosse stick on my taxes? But it was a love-in. Another great moment, pivotal moment in my life. A friend of mine here, John McNulty, talked me into going out for the Ward Melville wrestling team. And I look back on the decisions I made in my life, and that was among the bravest or the stupidest. Because Ward Melville Wrestling already had a heavyweight wrestler. He was the toughest kid in the school. His name was Kevin James. Kevin James was the other heavyweight. And we would do battle. Now, did you know that? True story. You can see us together in the Ward Melville yearbook, and Kevin James is hitting a tricep pose. One of only 2 kids at Ward Melville High School, which is a big high school, who could bench press over 300 pounds. In case you're wondering, I was not the other one. He's hitting that tricep pose. There I am standing next to him. Don't have a hint of muscle tone on my body. But I ended up doing pretty well. Not only that, we had, John and these guys who are lighter weight, and they're sucking weight, as they say, in amateur wrestling. And here's my coach McGonigal, Jim McGonigal said, Nick, you got to put on some more weight, try to make that 215 thing. So I eventually weighed in a super heavyweight with a 2.5 pound weight in my jockstrap. And while these guys were suffering and struggling, Kevin and I don't know who came up with the idea first, but we realized that both of us, who were spectacularly mediocre, could have much better, interesting, harder fought matches if we worked them out ahead of time. Shoot the single, I'll reverse shoot. It was like a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, I'm pretty good when my opponent is cooperating. Pretty. Yeah! One of the things I'll say, and I am not afraid to fail. We were in India with Kurt Angle, and we're looking at like a group of like 2,000 Indian school kids, and I make a point, and I said, yeah, it was pretty good. Pretty. Danny Zucker's you gotta be a Curb Your Enthusiasm fan, right? I looked out at a sea of silence, just a symphony of silence. That's about enough. Almost enough. Thank you. Your friend, she's so cuddly and lovable. She said, right, you're gonna read my palm, right? I just wanna hug you, right? Thank you. I don't want you to read it because it says Spanish table, tiger. My balls. Oh. Hey, I was writing words in my head long before Sarah Palin even thought about it. When I was a commissioner of WWE, we had so many different things we had to remember that I would go out there and I would have like 5 or 6 words on my hand. My mother said, Mick, how often, like how many days in advance do you find out what you're going to say? Because we do like these 25-minute passion plays at the beginning of the hour or the 2 hours. And she said, how many days in advance do you find out what you're going to say? I said, days? She said, how many hours? And I said, hours? She said, well, when do you know? I said, Mom, there are times when those pyrotechnics are going off and we still don't know exactly what we're going to say. There's no adrenaline rush, like pyrotechnics, live TV, and there's Vince McMahon going up to Chris Jericho going, oh, Chris, don't forget when you go out there, call Stephanie a bottom-feeding trash bag hobo. So it's like... And I said, Vince! He looked at me and goes, yeah? And I said, that's your daughter. He goes, you know, Mick, there's nothing I wouldn't do to get a pop in this business. I love that guy. But I went out, I was pretty good, and even after I replaced Kevin, I think went out with a back injury, and it was like, I don't want to talk ill of Kevin because he was pretty good, but he was actually like counting forfeits on his record. Like, I'm 6-2, and he was counting forfeits that nobody else would ever do. I went out when the match was on the line. There's a lot of pressure on the heavyweight wrestler, and we had to come up with a pin. to win the match. And I was wrestling this guy with a mohawk at the time when Mr. T was in vogue, and that was really frightening. A big black guy named Artie Mims. And the good news is there was a pin in that match. Bad news, I wasn't the guy doing the pinning. I had to get up, and I walked over stoically, and I shook Artie Mims' hand, I shook their coach's hand, I shook my coach's hand, and then I went into the Ward Mobile wrestling room and I cried for 15 minutes. Just freaking cried my eyes out. And my friends were there to support me. Went back to the house, watching some TV, and I was like, hey, where's Imbro? You guys remember where Imbro was that night? They're like, he couldn't make it. I was like, what do you mean he couldn't make it? Imbro and me were tight, and they're like, he went to see Taboo 2 with Chris Lenz at the Rocky Point Cinema. I was like, that son of a bitch, Imbro! He went to see the sequel of my favorite adult film of all time. A, didn't invite me. B, left me hanging after I cried my eyes out in the Ward Melville wrestling room for 10 minutes. I don't want you guys, oh, Mick watched porno. I did watch it. It was an innocent, gentler time. I mean, you take that original Taboo and you throw out the one gangbang scene, and we're talking about a Hallmark film picture. It was like this good old-fashioned emotional MILF film. Even if the M, E, L to F happened to be his own. The F, his own F. And L'd it. And now, I don't know if you guys are with me, man. It's taken such a violent turn. They're like, oh no, he is going to talk about porn. One of the guys who shot Beyond the Mat, he moonlighted as a porn producer, filmer. And I said, he moonlighted under the pseudonym Conrad Dobler. You guys old enough to remember when Conrad Dobler was the dirtiest player in the NBA, in the NFL? Except this guy spelled it differently. He spelled it D-O-U-G-H. Blur. And I said, what is that like, man? That's kind of weird. Thanks, man. Courtesy laughs are appreciated. That's kind of weird. I mean, what's that like? Is that like exciting? And he was like, he broke the sad news to me that, as B.B. King might have said, the thrill was gone, baby. The victim of an industry where DP no longer stood for director of photography. And there's guys over there like, I know what DP is, but I'm not going to let on. And this stuff is, I don't mean to lecture, but it's become so damn pervasive in our society, get to the point where I went to a Yankee game, Yankees were rallying, Twins were at bat, runners on first and second.